With Marvel Spider-Man 2 on the horizon, we're in the double digits now as to when this game is actually going to be in our hands. I've been thinking a lot about Spider-Man games in general. And of course, you know, on the channel, we just recently played a canceled Spider-Man game that never actually got made. And well, you guys don't realize how many times we were just that close from getting an incredible Spider-Man game. So I wanted to go over here in this video 7 Spider-Man games that have been canceled. And I think we'll start this list off with the easy one, the one that I just talked about. You know, we were just playing this on the channel, and that is the Spider-Man 4 movie tie-in game. I won't reiterate too much of what I said in that video, but yes, there is a playable demo out there right now that somebody found and put online, and I got the chance to play it. It was from the folks who worked on the prototype games. A lot of ideas in the Spider-Man 4 game inevitably became prototype 2, and the reason why there's so much for this Spider-Man 4 game that exists right now, or that is out there in the wild, is because they work on these games so far in advance from before these movies even go into filming. So because at one point Spider-Man 4 the movie was going to happen with Sam Raimi directing and Tobey Maguire coming back, because it fell through, they weren't able to continue production on the game, but they still added some stuff in there. They were clearly working on it. And this next one is cheating a little bit, okay? This next one's technically a Marvel game in general that was canceled, but I mean, the marketing had a lot to do with Spider-Man. But first, let me just preface by reminding you guys of a game that you might remember from when you were younger. It is an EA Marvel fighting game, a 3D arena fighter called Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects. And if that game meant as much to your childhood as it did to mine, well then scroll down and hit the thumbs up button. I don't know about you guys, okay? I know that this game isn't perfect by any means, and it certainly doesn't hold up to some of the fighting game standards that we all have today, but man, this game was my childhood. I loved Marvel Nemesis as a kid. I mean, I loved every single time I got to win as Spider-Man in that game. I just couldn't wait for the outro when he goes, you know what we call that? A web-slinging ass kicking.
You know what we call that? We call that a web-slinging ass-kicking.
It was clearly a voice actor too that was meant to sound like Tobey Maguire, and the suit looked like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit as well. What you might not know is that EA wanted to create a spiritual successor to Marvel Nemesis. They wanted to do another Marvel 3D arena fighter. This game was developed by EA's Chicago studio, and it was called Marvel Chaos. There's even a trailer out there for the game. They were marketing it, and they were clearly working on it and expected for it to release at some point in the future. And within the marketing, we do see that Spider-Man is facing off against like Dr. Doom, and then the Hulk is in there, and there's tons of stuff that surfaced online for this game. And there were some cool ideas with this, honestly. What they were trying to do was make it so that the arenas that you fight in were fully destructible, so you can truly cause some chaos. It was honestly looking to take the things that we would have loved about Marvel Nemesis and crank it up to 11. Unfortunately, as with all the games on this list, Marvel Chaos never saw the light of day. The EA Chicago studio shut down after the game was in development hell, and they just couldn't get things to work. Who knows though, EA signed a new deal with Marvel, and they're making 3 big games for them. We know of the Black Panther game now, as that was recently revealed. The Iron Man game has been revealed for quite some time now, and there's a 3rd action adventure that they're working on. We don't know about that just yet. If things go well between EA and Marvel, and these games are well received, and they sell a whole ton of copies, well then who knows, maybe a Marvel Chaos type game could be revived in the future. I think in general, we really need to see Marvel get the Injustice treatment, a really cool Marvel fighting game that isn't a Marvel vs. Capcom, and that's no disrespect to MVC. I love those games. I'm gonna cheat a little bit again because the next game on this list is Spider-Man Unlimited, and I can't even begin to explain to you how many hours I have logged into this game on my iPod Touch when I was in high school. This game like consumed my life for such a long time. I was so addicted to trying to get as high a score as possible playing Spider-Man Unlimited. Not to mention, this game expanded my knowledge of alternate universe Spider-Man and alternate suits for Spider-Man exponentially because of how many different Spider-Man you can choose from within the game. And so unlike a lot of the games on this list, it wasn't necessarily canceled before anybody could get their hands on it, but sadly, and it still pains me to this day, the game has ceased all production and has been delisted from app stores in general as of 2019. If you got a new phone and you wanted to play this game, you cannot play it whatsoever. You'd have to have a pre-existing account that has already had it downloaded before. That way you can just re-download it to your phone. And even though the game at one point had like 30 million downloads, by the time that we reached the Infinity War collab that they were doing, they just had dwindling interest not a lot of people were playing it anymore, so they shut the doors on it. And these next two games, we don't know if this is fully confirmed. This comes from Reddit rumors, okay? Somebody on Reddit was posting, claiming to have worked at Activision, and was saying that at one point or another, Activision was working with Disney to strike a deal where they would remaster Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions and Spider-Man Edge of Time. The reason why some people believe that this might be true is because clearly Activision was working with Disney in some way, shape, or form on some of the Activision published Marvel games. That's how Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 were relisted for a little bit of time on the PlayStation and Xbox store. Apparently, the deal fell through simply because Activision wanted the rights to develop more Marvel games, and Disney was like, nope, sorry, we're not letting you do that. And that is a bummer. I don't love Edge of Time by any means, but I really enjoyed Shattered Dimensions. That is one of my favorite Spider-Man games ever made, and I would have loved to have seen it remastered. I mean, if you really think about it, Shattered Dimensions is the reason why the Spider-Verse even exists. And as a general note, if you've been liking the Spider-Man content on this channel and you can't wait to see more, I mean, that San Diego Comic-Con panel for Marvel Spider-Man 2 is right around the corner. I got you covered on it. Subscribe to this channel, turn on those notifications. So much Spider-Man goodness is coming your way. And moving on to another one of my favorite Spider-Man games that we've ever gotten. SpiderMan Web of Shadows means so much to me. I loved this game as a kid as well. The opportunity to be able to switch between the red and blue and the black suit on the fly was so cool. Plus, facing off against Venom throughout the game and having Wolverine cameo in there and all these other Marvel heroes that you're going to interact with, I thought it was such an awesome game. And I was always bummed out that we never got a follow-up, but it turns out we were supposed to. The SpiderMan Web of Shadows sequel was at one point called SpiderMan Classic. Shaba Games, the people who worked on Web of Shadows, were developing it and wanted it to focus more on the combat and the things that they excelled with in Web of Shadows. They didn't actually want Spider-Man Classic to be an open world game. It was meant to be more linear, where you're facing off against Spider-Man's most iconic villains, and the most important part that would have been awesome to see if it was fully realized was that Wolverine was going to be a playable character alongside Spider-Man. And just thinking about the idea and how much potential is there, it makes me so sad that this never got made, because when you think about it, I mean, the open world of Web of Shadows, it really was nothing special. I did like the web swinging in that game, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, what we all loved the most about Web of Shadows was the combat. So if we got a follow-up to that game where it trimmed the fat and it just focused on all the things that Shaba Games did right with Web of Shadows, and then add Wolverine as a playable character, that could have been an incredible game. The game never left, though, its pre-production stage, as Shaba Games, the people who were developing it, had shut down. And the final Spider-Man game that was canceled on this list, I can't even begin to explain to you how bummed out I am that this didn't end up happening after hearing what it could have been. And that game is Ultimate Spider-Man 2. I don't really got to explain to you why Ultimate Spider-Man is a masterpiece. Definitely like a top 3 Spider-Man games ever made, and probably overall one of the best superhero games ever. And yes, Ultimate Spider-Man 2 was going to happen. They were working on it. Brian Michael Bendis signed on once again to write the story, and it was supposed to take place during the wintertime, with Green Goblin being the main villain of the game. They were going to expand on the open world, allowing us to explore areas like Brooklyn and Coney Island, which, you know, now we know is going to be explorable in Marvel Spider-Man 2, which is awesome. And apparently, although this is just a rumor, it's said that they were going to have Green Goblin as the other playable character, similar to what they did with Spider-Man and Venom being playable in the first Ultimate Spider-Man game. I do find it interesting mainly because in the first Ultimate Spider-Man, you actually do fight Green Goblin. He's one of the boss fights in the game. And so I wonder what they could have done having Green Goblin be playable, and exactly what the story could have been. I mean, those who might remember, in the comic books, the death of Spider-Man happens at the hands of the Green Goblin, at least specifically in the Ultimate comics. The saddest part about this one is, unlike the other games that were canceled because of negotiations falling through or because the studio working on it had shut down, the only reason that this didn't get made was simply because people didn't buy the first one. Treyarch was working on Ultimate Spider-Man 2. They were gonna make it, but due to poor sales for the first game, Activision shut down development. This one hurts, man. I'm telling you, this one seriously hurts. And with that being said, now I want to kick it to you guys. Out of all these canceled Spider-Man games, which one bums you out the most? Sound off with all your thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, hit that thumbs up button. I've been Caboose, and I'll see you guys later.